What's going on, Empathy Skills? How's it going? It's Man Tomorrow here. I wanted to talk about something, and and it's very important. While we keep lionizing failed black man after failed black man to come speak for us when it comes to moving on to better options, right? What you have to realize is that you have to look up the word re-traumatization. It's a medical term. I'm on the phone. I'm not on my laptop. I don't think it has enough power. I'm here in the shop as usual, fixing something on a new truck. But you have to understand why older black men don't have a right to talk to younger black men about relationship issues. Older black men are the reason why we have these issues in the first place. That's right. You have attorneys getting live, whack dudes getting live, but the answer is right in front of your face. When are these people going to show off the actual options that they moved on to? Because it's quite obvious that the older black men within this space are not dating these new women that they created. That's not the case at all, right? So, how is it you got the same place where everybody has their own version of the black church going on, but then you have another space within the space that tells you that they have the answer to those same type of women that those other older black men don't tell you to leave alone altogether? So, now look at this. Usually there are danger signs that are warnings. You see them on the road. They tell you to move from one lane to the next. They tell you trucks only use the left or right lane. They tell you if you're on a bike, loose gravel, right? All these warnings are up. And if you do not heed these warnings, you could be in a world of trouble or danger itself. But when it comes to relationship experts within this space, nobody has put the flame to these dudes. Not the older dudes and definitely not the younger ones, right? So when do you get the idea that you should leave these people alone? Because they're not dating these people that they created. There's no reason for people who's 50 something years old to be talking to younger women when they walked away from their own family, creating the same type of circumstance. What type of person you think would create a younger type of person that you can't deal with if he didn't have the level of success with the older type of person within his own generation? You have to ask yourself such a question. Such a question is, who has had a level of success here and has kept it? Because the people who claim that they have a level of success, these individuals grade themselves by keep going into the same circumstance and getting the same level of quality over and over again, and that's the level of success for those people. When does it come apparent to you that even talking about these individuals or even dealing with these individuals or showing up to conversation about these individuals, feeling represented by people who's not even talking to or dating these individuals, When do you realize that you are part of the problem? Because these people are only doing something that's successful. So you got one group of older black men who tell you that they believe in marriage. They don't tell you the who. They have no ability to tell you why. You have another group of individuals who tell you that they have the golden answer to the actual female herself. You have those individuals. And then you have the much older individuals who's providing black church like activities to most of these people who are doing all this. What's going on, Game Changer? Because you don't have the same problem you're having with the not sending the notifications out. So you have to ask yourself, there has to be a baseline to where there's some level of success when dealing with said personnel. And it has to be a generation who's going to take the fall for all of this. Because so far, the only thing that I've seen is that people are passing the buck down to the younger generation. Now, no, I go live all the time. It's just that my notification ain't going out. That's why there's 17 people here. So you have to realize this. When does it come apparent that you have to make better short term decisions? Because the reasonable assumption at this point is that they're all poison, not by our standard, but by their standard for which they're teaching from. Because if there were a cachet of hidden, chaste, respectable people who understood how to limit themselves within the environment that the older generation have not produced to the younger individuals in the environment, you would have to think, why all the secrecy? Where are these people that they're preparing you to actually hook up with? Because they could point out all types of statistics. They could point out XYZ. They got large platforms. They love crapping on the younger generation whenever they get a chance. But when it comes down to who are you supposed to deal with once you have all this information, the answer is always the same group of people that we didn't succeed with. Hold on a second. So you have to understand how they have this term in navigation or flight um, aircraft called control flight into terrain, CTIF. I watch a lot of airplane disasters and all that type of stuff because that's the type of stuff I'm into. But you have to understand that when you have full control of the plane and the plane ends up going down anyway, that is pilot error. You have all the answers. Like I didn't have all the answers when I was 19, especially 17 when once I left home. I did not have all of the actual answers to anything. But the answers were provided to me once I moved into a different environment where I dealt with different people who had different upbringings, who had different outcomes that I can actually measure myself. So if these individuals who are teaching from a level of failure have not went to a better environment to receive a better outcome. Oh yeah, man. Great channel. One of the best channels on YouTube. So where does this start? So who's going to be the test subjects here? Because we have older individuals who are here who are not explicitly telling you to move on to different things that they haven't prepared, but they're implicitly telling you to stay because all the conversations kind of lead around the circle of this is what they do. I'm like, dude, how many times are you going to have that conversation before you move on? Strong masculinity. So it's like, how many times can you hear the same information over and over again to where you actually still end up at the starting point? Because right now it's a time loop. It goes over and over and over again. And if you have not been here for over 3 years, what you have right now is the same individuals trying to reset and recycle the conversation like they did 3 or 4 years ago to a new group of people. You see, this is why you have to understand the term of re-traumatization. Because yes, these people who grew up under these circumstances have to be separated from the people who actually created it for them. And there are two groups of people who've done this. Of course, it's the mother through her direct choice. That's obvious. But it's also two other types of men that help them do it. The first type of man that helped them do it was the actual man responsible for giving her control over the community itself. These people are outright traitors, by the way. Telling us how much ass you get your ass stomped out in public. Because the only thing you've done was give people kids that they can't raise, so that way she can maintain control over the actual community itself. Those are the one group of traitors. The other group of traitors were the people who lie like they was that guy. And that's the second group of people. And then you have a third group of people were the people who stay silent about the entire track record, but still superimpose the actual results onto people who they know are not equipped to deal with these type of people that they create. So I would say that there's one woman responsible, but there's three types of men who's responsible too. Then you have to look at the level of protection in society from men that coddle and actually encourages the disrespect toward men in society. So you know how these men are. They're the game dudes. The moment you try to bring order to an actual environment and bring up things that need to happen, they are the ones who swiftly tell you that things are not going to change. They don't say that things are not going to change because the action that they're taking, things are not going to change because of the action that they're not taking. Because see, they want to be the next person in line to illicitly get a hit on that specific potential individual by upholding the standard of open ledge within society itself. Because most of these dudes who claim they got this stuff under control, they actually don't even have any experience. And the only experience that they have is walking around with the female's point of view inside their mouth, faking and act like they are fake sexually compromised in the way that the actual dudes who are on child support are sexually compromised. The people who have kids by these individuals, I understand their ability to lie to the next generation. They need somebody to actually take up their responsibility as a man. It makes sense to socialize this community type effort without the community type input. It makes sense to actually socialize younger people into being a level of honor towards something that never showed them honor in the first place. I understand the older individual's ability to try to socialize everyone around them that these problems have been permanent all the time when they actually have been very temporary. I understand these things. There's always a person who's benefiting from this, and it's really not the man. And you have to understand that this stuff is going to repeat itself over and over and over again until you actually get the specific point. The specific point is you have to leave this stuff alone. You have to find your own value without this individual. And once you find your own value, you have to keep it away from those individuals who are there to cannibalize your value because that's what they've been taught. It's going smooth. So you have to understand now, a lot of people are being re-traumatized by these conversations by these older individuals here who don't give any real answers. Because the real answer is leave these people alone. How could you possibly have a 50-year-old talking to a 20-year-old about how messed up they are? How is that even possible without some level of responsibility being held to the person who's actually holding the conversation in the first place? What they're actually doing is they're holding the conversation of progress hostage by filling with analytics and otherwise the actual space with more and more compromised people as inhumanly possible. If we already have this statistics that are based on a very specific track record, we already have different groups of people who formulated career fields out of the lost people here within the actual space itself. The next actual goal is who's a new group of people who are actually prepared to take on this burden. It's going hard, Jizzle. Because the people who are prepared to take on this burden are actually ill equipped, even more ill equipped than the people who actually teach from it. In most disciplines, you would have a person who actually teaches from a level of emeritus, a retired professor who has credibility with a certain type of subject, who has experience and outcome to which they can teach from. Like it wouldn't make any sense for Steven Seagal to be the person to be teaching karate classes right now. Perhaps when he was earlier in his movie career, but right now, he wouldn't be the best representative for that. But we have Steven Seagals all around this place trying to teach from a level of success. And their level of success is just merely giving you the ability to feel comfortable with these types of choices around here. So you have to ask yourself, when do you decouple your value system from those people who never respected your value in the first place? Feeding your best self to the people who never gave a damn about you isn't a good deal for you. Nobody has to tell you that at this specific point. But the older failures, far older than I am, shouldn't be trying to teach from this level of, I got this stuff figured out, deal with the same people. You got to start asking these questions. If this person has this many problems, then who do I turn to? Because that's how cultures work. Especially intact cultures work that way as well. There's a degree of success and there's a degree of failure for both men and women itself. There are assigned roles between the two individuals. And then there's a level of oversight within the culture itself before it even comes to a legal matter. Those things are actually overseen within the environment itself. So if the level of oversight becomes feeding new people into a system that they can't handle, if that becomes the level of oversight, then the only thing we're doing is we're recreating control flight into terrain as the societal standard. The actual standard becomes creating failed men who can never get out of the cycle. What's going on, Marco? So you have to understand this. The question is simple. If you know so much about a bad product, and this bad product that you counsel or speak on the behalf of every day is how you make your living, when do you provide better options for those people who's actually listening to you? It's a question. It's a very simple question. There has to be a system to where you hold people responsible for their actual actions. Because here's the thing, just like the winter is coming type thing, winter is coming, but winter is not coming for the women. Winter is coming for the actual men who are not preparing men to move on to other options. That's the actual winter that's coming. Because you can't sell this to the youngest generation unless they were grown up in a very specific environment. They have a level of success. It's called incels or volcels, by the way. Because most of these younger children have been grown up in within these environments to where they know not to trust the type of individuals who they was raised by and raised around. I had kind of the same upbringing, but it came that way when it came to non-productive men, period. Say it again. That ships are leaving. Yeah. So it's like, look, these things are not hard to get and not hard to grasp. You can give a barely productive man a feminine woman and he'll be fine. Seen it all the time, seen it when I was in the military. It was a greater actual deal of it actually working out versus not because the actual person was actually socialized into trying to make it work no matter what. That's how they get hung up in these things, and that's how it goes wrong. What happens when the societal standard becomes none of these options are going to be viable for me to mess with no matter what? Because that's where it's coming to. You can only abuse choice so much. And this is why I say the man who is on his mission to get his stuff together and to keep it away from these other societal influences that don't care about him, that's one of the most dangerous people that you can actually come across. Because these individuals, once they start going for self and exercising a level of proactive selfishness, instead of going through actual nonsense that they don't need to be going to, thanks to the level of socialization by older individuals who don't care about them. Once people are proactively selfish and not reactively selfish after they've been through some stuff, that's when you're going to see the change. But see, you're not going to see the change from most millennials, especially not Generation X in greater numbers. Definitely not the boomers because they want to be the actual people who hand down a failed culture to try to make it normal. So now you're going to have two and three groups of generations of people who's going to be making all the same decisions. What's going on, new? What's going on, show provider? So that's what I'm saying. And this message is not anti-woman. This message is anti-problem. Because, like I said, when you have the unacceptable become normal, the normal become rare, and the exceptional become damn near impossible, you have new groups of leadership that pop up here. The new groups of leadership is going to be here to maintain the type of environment that we have. Because if everybody was socialized into moving on to different things, especially when it came to productivity, there is no way in the hell we could keep having more and more younger people fall into this actual black church being actually verified by our problem. That's where we're currently at. At some point, you got to learn to leave all this stuff alone, all of it alone, all of it alone. Because any person teaching from a level of success better have an actual life setup that you can actually honestly want for yourself. Yeah, I mean, because the truth is easy. The truth is very easy. And you have to realize turning a normal individual into a sexual parasite or a sexually compromised individual to the point to where he have to look at every single sexual opportunity as a reason for him to get involved in something that he should or shouldn't, that's not going to help the situation either. If the situation was created by an abundance of choice on one side and an abundance of restriction on the other side, that's exactly how you solve the issue. Of course, they're going to try to gaslight you into saying, oh, you don't get no ass. Yeah, I don't want any if it has this level of consequences associated with it. No one ever answers about the problems associated with it. And you have child support dudes and divorce grapees teaching from a level of success to people who don't know how to evaluate information. Now, women get it when it's their son. I was just over my sister's house in Nashville. She got it when it was her son. But when it came to her benefit, she didn't give a damn about who she used. But she got it when it was her sons, especially her good sons she put all that work into. She wasn't gonna let them sons fall into the hands of those type of women. Now, one of the sons that she don't really give a shit about, you know, yeah, she let that happen. But see, you have to understand that people have a level of protection that they want to exert. But see, you have to understand that it's this simple. And my grandfather said it a long ass time ago, and I didn't believe him. He said this: if you want to see where a person stands, tell them this simple, very simple issue and question. Would you want things to benefit? I'm sorry. The opposite translation. Sorry. Would you want things to change overall and you not benefit personally? Ask yourself that question. Would you want things to change overall and you not benefit personally? Because most people are acting as decent as they are because they are looking for some type of benefit for self. The actual community that they're talking about, they want to be the ones who lead it, who want to be the best people to represent it, even though they seen the entire system fail from the previous generation. And that's most of what the problem is. People are only showing up to fix their own problem. They're not showing up to actually make the society or the system better overall. Because if that was the case, you would have had better socialized individuals when it came to participating in society in ways that matter. You would not have people who expect things without proper participation. We allowed for individuals to tell us how much they were a traitor to our entire cause to represent us in media for far too long. Now these individuals want a free pass to betray us all yet again for profit because they missed their chance to be productive when it came to career fields outside of talking about relationships. That's what we currently are. But see, it takes a level of socialization into that too. And actually, that level of socialization is pretty easy. But see, people come into that socialization in two different forms that I've seen personally. The first level of socialization is a person seeing so much failure within their own household or within their own family, personally, that they've seen, that they'll do anything on the planet to act opposite that would actually attract those type of people. That's one way that it works. And the other way that it works is they've already ran their entire system through that system and they can't think about even going back to that thing. And there's no way but up. That's the other way. So you guys have got to understand this. Wanting better outcomes overall is something that everybody should want. But a lot of people want to leave these problems unsolved so that way they can be popular off of the problems that we have, but not the solutions that can be given off the problems that we do have. You see, none of this stuff is going to change unless you change it all yourself. You got to be the test case. I was the test case for me. The actual result that I've seen, I've never saw within my life, period. Father died at a young age. Grandfather died at an old age before him. Completely lost. I had to leave Mississippi to find all this stuff. There was no way I was going to learn all this stuff being around them older men in that environment. There was no way I was going to learn that. So what I'm telling you is that you have an opportunity to move around like no other people have throughout history and society. You have that opinion that you can formulate yourself outside these guaranteed consequences when it comes to these things. That's what it was for me. It was about building. It was not about giving it away. It was about building. It was not about trying to shine. It was about building. It was not about trying to impress people. It was about me witnessing the power of choice and the power of responsibility and the power of noticing track records and leaving things the hell alone. That's where it came from. Because winter is coming, folks. Winter is coming for people who can't produce. Winter is coming for people who can no longer consume. Winter is coming for people who live off scams. Winter is coming for those type of men and those type of women. Most of these younger individuals have already lived through that winter already, and they're not going to be the next source of food for these individuals. You see, when most people talk about skin color as the only attribute that they're trying to actually bring forth to the next generation, they've already told you that they don't have anything to bring to the table. Those individuals never focus on the results of what happened, regardless of color. My father and my grandfather was a results type people. They didn't give a damn what the input was. They give a damn what the output was. And your ass was held responsible to that type of outcome. Those type of men today would be called lame by these other lame dudes who are actually lame. For real. But see, you have to notice that you have something that they want, which is why they want you to stay. They want you to pay for their mistakes. They want to socialize you into making sure that these things are going to be here for somebody else to take advantage of. You have to take yourself off the field. You got to make sure that you're nobody's backup plan. What's going on, Tommy? But this is what we are. You have to understand the input to the output. You have to understand chances and risk. You're not supposed to be taking risk when you don't need to take risk. You have been socialized into thinking that taking risk isn't risky. Taking risk on the level of being problematic. It's something that's good for you. You have to understand that this is where we are. If you map your DNA, you would see that at some point in time in your history, those men and maybe those women had to move on to a different group of people to have a specific result. And that's currently where we are. That's the problem. And you can fix this problem within your own damn time. Most of these things are solved not by the issues that you get your ass into, but the issues that you don't get your ass into. Some things need to be left academic. Getting your starter girl pregnant needs to be an academic discussion, not a live reality like most of these dudes. Bragging about how you winning in public but you suffering in private should be academic, not a live reality. Most of these failures are trying to recreate failure to make failure normal. And they almost got away with it. Right now, it's not worth it. Right now, it's not worth it. Right now, it is not worth it. The type of pain that you can be saved by leaving this stuff alone is something that you need to experience first. If nobody respects the track record of growth, there ain't no way they're going to reap the harvest whenever it comes. You see, you got to have enough self esteem to keep this stuff away from people like that. Because when most people get their stuff together, the first thing they try to solve is their self esteem issues. With cars, with houses, with big ass parties, all these fake ass friends, all that stuff brings nothing but ruin to the individual. These are things you can see up front if you know how these things are going to turn out. Now, what the older generation haven't done, they haven't really mapped a pathway of telling you how these things are going to end up. There is no if then else going on. There's only experience then else going on. And they're not even honest with you about how those things roll or work. Yeah, you got to understand that these things are not hard, man. And anybody providing you any level of hope or proof that they have provided a level of success, look, they better have something to prove. They better have something you can verify. Because verification of the actual system itself is heresy among those people who sell lies. Whenever you ask them for proof, the proof becomes look how popular my stuff is. Look how many satisfied, successful people that I've had. Not how provable that these things are. There is nothing wrong with being a test case, man. You got to understand that you got to pitch a no hitter. You got to become good at pitching no hitters. You can't expect the outfield to protect your no hit status. You have to pitch a no hitter. There's nothing wrong with pitching a no hitter. It does take a while. It's the longest possible way. But guess what? It's the right damn way. A lot of people can't teach you the no hit status because they had too many runs scored on them throughout the game to even think about exhibiting a level of excellence or discipline like that. This is why there shouldn't be any more people on child support. There shouldn't be anybody getting people pregnant that don't need it. There shouldn't be all this relationship talk when you already know these options are not good. And these people were not socialized to be together. They were socialized to parasite off one another. And that doesn't equal a good result, especially when there was no preparation for people to understand what each other's bringing to the table and how to get the best out of it. I started having the most fun that I've ever had in my entire life when I went on vacation by myself to other places. Had a ball. Most of the best times I've ever had in my life was even without electricity around, if you can believe that. The type of conversations you can have with people, the type of connections that you make with people who are just friendly just to be friendly. That ain't something that you can exhibit within this type of environment where everybody's trying to get over on the next person. This is why this is vitally important that you move on from this. You have to move on from this. This is not ground that you can plant on. There would not be all of this information and talk about one specific individual if you can easily leave this individual the hell alone and move on to other individuals that have been properly prepared for you. And you're not supposed to be lowering yourself into a lion's cage by practicing a level of submission within the environment to them and acting like you're winning. That's how we got here. A parasite has never had a level of respect for its host. Never. A parasite in a host relationship is not a respectful relationship. Both people are not given equally to those levels of relationship. One is going to be at a position of compromise if they don't get the parasite off of them at some point. Strong might be. But when you are taught by older individuals that it is your social responsibility to deal with said individuals regardless of their background, regardless of how they act, this is where we are. Would there ever even need to be older individuals who keep trying to tell you that you can't go nowhere, that you can't move unless she decides that she's going to give up her power within the environment itself? When do you formulate your own value outside of that? When do you start politically organizing outside of her expectation to bring something to the table? When do you start doing that? When do you start taking actions? That's where we are at. You have to make sure that you keep it. Because a lot of these individuals have daughters out here and they're not going to let your ass not serve your ass up to be a meal ticket for their daughter. They're not going to let you get away with this stuff scot free. They're not going to do that. So, this is not about leaving specific people alone. This is about leaving specific situations alone because you're not good enough to deal with this type of stuff at this point in time. You have to focus on getting yourself straight right now. All of these consequences that the older generation are now faced with, you can do without all that stuff. Or do you want to be 50 years old talking to younger individuals that you didn't culture to be anything as the only reason and means that you can make money, or the only reason it means that you can get attention? It's not worth it. You can get your own stuff together, experience a hell of a lot more by yourself, and leave all this stuff alone. The only thing I'm telling you is exert a lot more discipline with yourself, because most of the masculinity today is being actually validated and verified through the celebration of non-discipline and non-principled activity. You're going to have to regain those things for yourself. And you're going to have to keep the circle small, because the bigger you invite your circle, the more it becomes a chance at being compromised by these things out here. You're only 1 or 2 degrees of separation from hitting the reset button on your entire life. 1 or 2 degrees of separation from getting yourself caught up in some stuff that you don't need to. 1 degree of separation become somebody's lick. 1 degree of separation over destroying your reputation. 1 degree of separation is that high. Nobody wants to tell you the facts or even the truth of the matter. Everybody wants to claim victory, but show no proof. And you got to leave the things that you think are easy alone, man. It's time for you to find better things to deal with, because the level of betrayal is not that you're moving on to better things. It's that the previous generations did not prepare the things for you to actually deal with. With all these problems that are going on, there's really no reason to be messing with these things in this environment. But that's where we are. Any person talking about black culture is not a person who you should be talking to. Black culture is failure culture. That's what it's about. By failures, for failures. That's what it's about at this point. They're trying to make you just into another failure, into another meal ticket for another person who do not like, love, or respect you. That's what it's about. It's not about celebrating the best of the best. It's about celebrating and laughing at somebody who got took that didn't need to be taken. It's about exhibiting a level of zero sympathy and empathy for that individual who tried to correct his self-esteem through a person that they shouldn't have been dealing with in the first place. You can't keep exercising this stuff on these people's behalf. It's time for them to start putting some on the table. And if they don't put anything on the table, you leave their ass alone. Your productivity belongs to you, man. You can't be giving it away for dumbass reasons. We don't need to keep going over this over and over again. At some point, you just need to get it and be good with it. I don't think it's a black man problem. I think it's a societal problem no matter where you are at this point. I mean, a lot of these people are more outrightly treacherous. You know about the track record, they decide to do it anyway. But a lot of these people go through this stuff after years of marriage and they turn around and have a divorce. So I would say find your value and keep it. If anybody's talking from a level of relationship success or cultural success, make them prove it. Make them prove it. Because there's no reason day in and day out to talk about the gynocracy. There's no day in and day out talking about cultural issues that you know ain't gonna be solved. There's no way day in day out that you could be focused on the LGBT community when they don't even talk about y'all like that. It's time for you to start asking these hard ass questions. What are you organizing on the side that your ass is on? And what does your actual endpoint look like? What does your level of success look like? Okay, I got all this stuff that you want to talk all this stuff about a specific thing, but what does success look like and how long does it take for us to get there? Because a lot of people have been here a long ass time without explaining what their end goal is. And we see the monetary delights, but what about the end goal for the people who you're actually talking to? Are all these people expected to be a level of failure so that way you can have a level of comfort? Because that's what it seems like. What is the end goal? How long does it take to get there? Okay, you cover another Instagram person doing XYZ to some person who think he can afford it. Okay, what's the end goal, man? What's the end goal? Once you start caring about results, dude, and your individual actions is going to matter toward the actual place to where you actually put the input at, none of this stuff is going to matter outside of that, man. None of that stuff is going to matter. I had to do all this stuff myself. There was no special guidebook for me. It was all trial and error. Most of the trials I put myself through, but most of the error was always made on my end as well. But once I started exercising more and more discipline and not being gaslit into doing dumbass things that did not net me a net positive, that's when I started receiving the results. And then I started seeing the actual disaster in other people's camps who thought they can maintain that level of friendship with these people after they got their stuff together. Turned out it was a 100% failure rate. Eventually, it's kind of like rolling them dice in the casino. You may win a fair, decent period of time, but those dice are actually set up to where your ass is going to eventually lose the longer you play. Because you can't claim that you're winning being a 50, 60, 70-year-old dude trying to sell relationship nonsense to people. There's no way that you can claim that you are winning at anything. There's no way. If you use the multiplier effect of those type of things with those type of people across society, how would we not have less problems if everybody took that route? There's so many different people you could be around to where you don't even have to try that hard to do anything in society and life, man. It's too easy at this point. Choice associations is important. Most of the stuff that I succeeded with is because of choice associations. Choice associations. Knew it right away. Dude, I would have one conversation with a person. I knew exactly how far I can go with this person. I would have one conversation, be like, you know what? None of this. I don't want anywhere where any of this stuff is going. I would see one association. I'm like, I don't want anything where any of this stuff is going. That's how you have to protect your future. That's how you have to protect your own life. But see, most people don't want you thinking like this because if you were actually to do that over and over again, you would leave less ability for that individual to take advantage of you. When what they want to do is take advantage of you. And that's what the game is right now. Take mad advantage before they find out. That's the system that we have. Set him up for failure so that way he can lie about his level of success once they hit the consequences. That's the level of society that we have right now. These are the same people who talk about community. These are the same people who talk about coming together when they don't bring shit. People who don't bring shit are talking about the come together conversation. If you didn't notice that. When we know that they never had a level of appreciation for people who actually built shit. Most of the appreciation comes from people who provide comfort to people who haven't accomplished a damn thing. This is what this stuff is about. It's sad, but that's what it is, man. But at some point, you're going to have to realize that you're going to have to leave most of these things alone. It was never your job as a man to try to appeal to every different type of person within society. That's not your job. Your job was simply producing enough to where you can live off of and expand operations when it made sense. But see, a lot of people want you to expand operations when it don't make sense, so that way you could take care of their responsibilities. This is why they socialize the next generation into taking care of older people's responsibilities for them, of putting their own life on hold to take care of grown ass individuals' problems. You cannot expect the younger generation to provide better results for two generations after it. This is what has been going on for a while. What's going on, LJ? How many people are trying to tell you this in this space? How many people are trying to protect you from the actual consequences within this space? How many people want to tell you the truth of what's actually going on within this space? Hold on a second. All right, I'm back. Just looking at the lighting in the back. They had to rewire it. So yeah, so that's where we're at, man. None of this stuff need to be this hard. Other groups of people, when they come here, they hitting the ground rolling. They're not waiting on no older individual to try to socialize them into dating individuals that they shouldn't be trying to couple with. You got to have better outcomes. I definitely didn't see better outcomes. I had to go get it. I had to be the test case. And sometimes it's okay to be the only person who see this thing through and dodge all the actual outcomes that are bad. Sometimes that's okay. And right now is a pretty good time to start that. This stuff isn't going to get any better than what it is without input on one side that's never been respected. This is why they wanted the average guy not to win. You see, when the average guy doesn't win anything in society, it destroys the entire society itself. This is why most of these people are socialized into failure. So that way, a new group of men can pop up pretending like they're success stories. But if the average man can get their own productivity and keep it away from people who's trying to cannibalize them, that reverses the polarity and that fixes the entire system itself. If you're going to not repeat the mistakes of the past generations, you're already ahead. You have to stay away from men who conversate like women. Stay away from the men who want to use the woman's opinion as the barometer of their actual success within society. Because the only thing they're trying to do is try to redirect criticism and place it on an improper place so that way you can follow that standard, even though they're not even exhibiting that standard themselves. There's a reason why they claiming the women and the women ain't claiming them. There's a reason for that. Because even the women can see that that's not a person that they would ever deal with. But if that person is going to provide them more options for free, she's not going to turn that down. Everybody has this ability to move on from this stuff. The only people who don't have the ability to do it are the people who need to uphold and prop up this failed system for their own benefit. Not your benefit, but their own benefit. Y'all have got to get these simple issues and points down, man. It's too easy to make it today, man. But don't worry, winter is coming. For those people who cannot individually produce without attaching themselves to broken systems, it's going to become critical mass at some point that people are going to be leaving these problems the hell alone and moving on with their own life by associating their value with everything else but what they're talking about. This is why they don't want the average man winning. This is why they don't want the average man finding a level of success. Because if that happened, there's no need for them in their new position that they're in. Like I said, it's a multiplier effect. If more people got their stuff together, if more people kept it from these obvious things that are wrong, the better the society gets over time. And this is why you have people who so-called think they're smart, but they're not acting smart. They're not trying to organize smart. They're just trying to be right and maintain their bullshit ass associations among this broken system without taking a side, and it doesn't work. Because whatever system that you think you're upholding, with silence, that silence comes after you at some point. And then you see how it feels for other people when you can't even defend yourself against those silence in the darkness, the people who knife you in the back. So with that said, on the man tomorrow, please heed this message. You can not get this stuff right. There's not been a level of success of getting this stuff right. Why do you think you have dating coaches, relationship experts, and people, divorcees, and all these people in the same place? They all teach you from a level of failure. But nobody is telling you really how to get this stuff in order. And it all comes from leaving these things alone, the exact thing that they're trying to steer you into. They're saying it implicitly, they're not saying it explicitly. So, with that said, I want to thank you guys for coming through. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe to the video. You guys have a really nice night. Peace.